Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Cycle on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is in closed-door talks with the President of Madagascar, Colonel Michael Randrianirina, at the Aso Rock Presidential Villa, Abuja. He was received by a delegation led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bianca Ojukwu, before being ushered into the President's office complex for a closed-door session. The high-level engagement marks Randrianirina's first official visit to Nigeria since he assumed office in October 2025, following a political transition that saw the exit of former President Andre Rajoelina. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says Nigeria will not surrender to terrorists, bandits and other criminals trying to intimidate the country. President Tinubu, who spoke during the National Interdenominational Church service held at the National Christian Center Abuja as part of activities marking the 2026 Democracy Day celebration, said his administration is stepping up effort to alleviate economic hardship confronting Nigerians. He reiterated his administration's vow to defeat the agents of violence and secure the release of all Nigerians held in captivity across the country. Over now to the governor of Benue State, Hyacinth Alia, has signed the state electricity bill into law, describing the legislation as a major step towards improving power supply, attracting investment and driving economic development in the state. And development was disclosed in a statement on Monday by the technical advisor to the governor on media publicity and strategic communications, Chief Solomon Lepev. The statement further stated that Alia said the law would open up the power sector for increased investment, promote competition, enhance consumer protection, and expand access to electricity for underserved communities across the state. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, urged Nigerians not to give up hope, saying he was compelled to introduce monthly prayer sessions to tackle abduction, killings, and militancy when he served as the governor of Akwa Ibom State. He said Nigerians must continue to pray so that terrorism sponsors will be exposed. This was disclosed in a statement issued by his media office in Abuja. The federal government has released funds to pay 5 months of accumulated consolidated academic tools allowance owed to lecturers in federal universities, directing vice chancellors to immediately clear all outstanding payments. Minister of Education Tunji Alausa instructed vice chancellors of federal universities to ensure the prompt disbursement of the funds to eligible academic staff. Directive dated June 4th, 2026, was addressed to vice chancellors of federal universities and forms part of the federal government's implementation of agreements reached with the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Minister of Defense Christopher Musa and Kaduna State Governor Uba Sani have described quality education, active citizenship, and community collaboration with security agencies as vital in addressing banditry, terrorism, and other security challenges facing Nigeria. Speaking at the event, Musa described the academy as a strategic, non-kinetic intervention in the fight against insecurity, stressing that sustainable peace requires more than military operations and intelligence gathering. He said that education remains a powerful tool for combating ignorance, hopelessness, and extremist ideologies. The National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, has announced the release of the deployment list for prospective Corps members in the 2026 Batch B Stream 1 exercise. The scheme disclosed this in a post on its official X handle, informing prospective Corps members that their deployment details are now available for checking. The release of the deployment list is one of the key stages in the NYSC mobilization process, coming ahead of the orientation course for newly mobilized Corps members. As part of effort to rid the state of insurgents, troops of Joint Task Force Operation Savannah Shield have apprehended 5 suspected bandits, terrorists, informants in separate operations conducted in Niger State. Acting Media Information Officer, Headquarters, Joint Task Force North Central Operations, Savannah Shield, Captain Jamilu Yahaya, in a statement said troops also recovered communication devices, cash, and other items linking the suspects to criminal activities. The deployment of forest guards have gathered momentum with Kebbi, Gombe, Kwara, Kaduna, Edo, Imo, Bayelsa, Anambra, and several other states, scaling up operations under the federal government-backed initiative, although implementation remains uneven nationwide. The renewed focus on forest security follows President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's approval of recruitment of 1,000 forest guards after recent attacks and abductions linked to suspected bandits in Oyo and Kwara State. Against the backdrop of the increasing attack by criminals, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had restated his administration's commitment to intensify the fight against insecurity and ensure the release of all persons held in captive across the country. The Nigerian Air Force has continued to provide air surveillance support to ongoing efforts aimed at rescuing teachers and pupils abducted by Yawota and Ahora Isaline communities in Orire local government area of Oyo State. A statement by Air Force spokesman Air Commodore Ahime Ejodame, Oyo State Governor Sheyi Makinde, disclosed this during a courtesy visit by the representatives of the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Kelvin Anike, and the Air Officer Commanding Logistic Command, Air Vice Marshal Abubakar Sule. The statement says Makinde revealed that Air Force promptly deployed all ASNA surveillance platform immediately after the abduction was reported, providing critical intelligence to support search and rescue operations. Orlando Kano State Fire Service has recorded 58 fire incidents and 13 deaths across the state in the month of May 2026. This was contained in a statement issued on Monday by the Public Relations Officer of the Kano State Fire Service, ACFO Saminu Abdullahi, on Monday. Abdullahi noted that the Director of Service, Sani Anas, disclosed this while giving a summary of the agency's operational activities for the month. Medical experts are warning against the habit of using digital gadgets in dark environments, advising that prolonged exposure may contribute to serious eye health risks, including conditions that affect vision over time. And optometrist Dr. David Owandu spoke exclusively to Global Television, explaining how individuals can better protect their eyesight. Sarah Nasser tells us more.
Experts see sight remains the most important human sense, responsible for about 80% of the information the brain receives from the environment, supporting learning, movement, and daily decision-making. They explain that eye cancer, although rare, occurs when abnormal cells develop and grow uncontrollably in or around the eye, affecting structures such as the eyeball, eyelids, and tear ducts. Speaking on the condition, Dr. David Owandu noted that early warning signs may include persistent redness of the eye and other unusual changes that should not be ignored.
Of the eye, and then you see that the redness does not end, it continues to multiply. And even when you use medications, they are not helping. You must first of all begin to go backwards, how you went down that road. You have to turn around by first of all using things that will begin to give you that protection you need again against oxidative stress. Then those cells will need to die off and new cells need to be born, protected, and you need to restore order.
Dr. Owandu advised that one way to reduce risks is to avoid using gadgets in complete darkness, recommending protective measures such as proper lighting and, where necessary, doctor-prescribed supplements. He stressed that simple lifestyle adjustments can help reduce strain on the eyes and prevent long-term complications linked to excessive screen exposure.
One, get protective lenses that filter out harmful rays of light. That is very, very important. Some people don't like wearing glasses. I understand that, but it's not just solving your refractive errors. It's also protecting your eye against several things you don't want to get into the eye.
The optometrists also urge the public to prioritize regular eye checkups at least once a year, noting that many people expose their eyes to environmental and digital hazards without routine medical assessment. He emphasized that early detection remains key in preventing and managing serious eye conditions. Health experts continue to encourage the public to adopt safer screening habits and seek professional eye care regularly to safeguard vision and overall eye health. Zahra Unasir, Global TV News.
You are watching the live broadcast of News Cycle. News Cycle continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Hello and welcome. Here is the weather outlook for Tuesday across the country. The day is expected to begin on a relatively quiet note across much of the northern and the north central region, with stable atmospheric conditions prevailing through the morning hours. However, we cannot rule out isolated morning rain showers over parts of Cross River, Akwa Ibom Rivers, and Lagos State. And as we move into the afternoon and evening hours, increasing atmospheric instability and moisture availability will support the development of thunderstorms, accompanied by moderate rainfall across many parts of the south. These conditions are also expected to extend into the Federal Capital Territory, parts of Kwara, Kogi, and Plateau State. Further north, thunderstorms are likely over parts of Borno, Jigawa, Adamawa, Taraba, Gombe, Bauchi, Kaduna, and Kano State later in the day. Thunderstorm-prone areas may experience brief gusty winds and reduced visibility during rainfall events. Residents are advised to remain weather aware and plan outdoor activities accordingly. And that's the forecast. Do have a pleasant Tuesday.
You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is News Cycle on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, concerns over food safety, environmental sustainability, and the future of Nigeria's agricultural system took center stage in Abuja as stakeholders called for stricter regulations and broader consultations on the abduction of genetically modified organisms, GMOs. Representatives from government agencies, environmental groups, and regulatory bodies says decisions on GMOs adoption must be guided by science, transparency, and public interest. Over now to Obong Osoro for more report.
The growing debate over genetically modified organisms once again came under focus as stakeholders gathered to examine the implication of GMO adoption on food security, biodiversity, and farmers' livelihoods. Participants stressed that for decades, Nigerian farmers have relied heavily on indigenous seeds preserved and shared within communities, warning that changes to this system could have far-reaching consequences for local agriculture. Questions were also raised over regulatory compliance, with concerns that existing approval processes require stronger coordination among relevant agencies to guarantee transparency and public confidence.
Registration of a GMO is not allowed, is not done, and has not been done. But we identify a gap that there is possibility for people to smuggle GMO product, smuggling exists everywhere in the world. So in view of that, we've increased our post-market surveillance activities by adding to the checklist the quest to screen for GMOs in supermarket, market, wherever you visit. Is part of the activity now.
The guest lecturer, Professor Johnson Ekpere, former Director General of the National Biosafety Management Agency, warned against what he described as the increasing dependence on genetically modified crops arguing that concerns remain over their long-term implications and economic impact on smallholder farmers.
I subscribe to this position because agroecology enhances soil health, water conservation, crop diversification, integrated pest management, organic nutrient recycling, climate resilience, and community participation.
The facilitator, Nimong Basi, called for greater transparency in approval processes and urged policymakers to prioritize environmental protection, indigenous knowledge, and interest of local farmers.
What we're talking about is that you want to have a secure, bio-safe nation. We must emphasize food sovereignty, which ensure that we define our own food and stress the fact that we reserve the right to what we eat and how we produce the food.
As conversations around food security intensify, stakeholders insist that decision on GMO adoption must reflect scientific innovation with environmental protection, public health concerns, and the realities facing Nigeria's farmers. Ubong Usoro, Global TV News.
A new economic brief released by financial experts and director of Alpha Group Martins Itoa states Nigeria's persistent electricity crisis is costing the economy more than 48 trillion naira annually. The report attributed the staggering losses to chronic power shortages, widespread resilience and self-generated electricity, disrupted business operations, damaged equipment, and 5 post-harvest losses across key sectors of the economy. Citing data from the African Development Bank, the brief noted that more than 70% of Nigerian businesses own or share fossil fuel generators to sustain operations. The House Committee on Public Accounts is working towards the recovery of about 29.721 billion naira in tertiary single account collection and accrued interest yet to be paid into the government coffers by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The chairman of the committee, Bamidele Salam, who announced this in Abuja, said the Public Accounts Committee undertook an extensive examination of transactions and remittances connected to the Remitter platform, with a view of identifying revenue leakages, enforcing compliance, and recovering all outstanding funds due to the federal government. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has commenced moves to harmonize regulatory processes with the Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory Authority as part of efforts to strengthen radiological safety in oil and gas operators and reduce the cost of doing business in the upstream petroleum sector. Now, the initiative emerged from a recent meeting between the Commission, Chief Executive of the NUPRC, Ayisan, said the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the NNRA, Yul Idris, at the Commission's headquarters in Abuja. The Commission's Head of Corporate Communications and Media, Eniola Akinkotu, stated that the collaboration is expected to address overlapping regulatory requirements, close existing gaps in oversight, and create a more efficient compliance framework for operators in the industry. Nigeria's trade sector attracted $65.79 million in foreign capital in the first quarter of 2026, resulting in a 91.31% increase from the $34.39 million recorded in the corresponding period of 2025. And despite a slowdown from the strong inflows recorded in the second half of the last year, data from the National Bureau of Statistics Capital Importation Report show that the trade sector rose to 91.31% year-on-year, underscoring renewed investor confidence in commercial activities and cross-border trade. The latest inflow, however, fell between $80.94 million recorded in the third quarter of 2025 and $119.21 million attracted in the first quarter of 2025, indicating that momentum moderated after 2 consecutive quarters of strong growth. On foreign news now, residents of Tel Aviv are expressing concern over Iran and Israel exchange fire for the first time since a fragile ceasefire halted weeks of fighting between the two countries. While missile alerts have once again sent people rushing into shelters, many say they are hoping the renewed hostilities will be short-lived. Mukhtar Qasim tells us more. We apologize, that report will be brought in our subsequent bulletin. Still on, residents of Tel Aviv are expressing concern after Iran and Israel exchanged fire for the first time since a fragile ceasefire halted weeks of fighting between the two countries. While missile alerts have once again sent people rushing to shelters, many say they're hoping the renewed hostilities will be short-lived. Iranian military has announced that the country will cease attacking Israel after having given a painful response to Israeli attacks in Lebanon. The military made the announcement in a statement issued on national radio. This came after Israel and Iran traded attacks overnight and into Monday in what was marked the most serious escalation since a ceasefire in the U.S.-Israel war on Iran took effect in April. Iran launched missiles at Israel on Sunday evening in what it described as a response to Israel's strikes on the Lebanese capital Beirut, prompting Israel to attack targets across Iran early on Monday, while Iranian strikes on Israel continue. The federal government has rescheduled the airlifting of the first batch of Nigerian citizens wanting to leave South Africa following the recent wave of xenophobic attack against blacks in the country. Kemi Ebefa, the spokesman of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, disclosed this in a statement on Monday. Ebefa said the proposed airlifting of the first batch of returnees from South Africa, which is originally scheduled for Monday, today has been rescheduled for Wednesday, and this is due to unforeseen logistical considerations. Over now to sports stories. Now, Nigerian sprint sensation Favour Ofili continued her encouraging start to the season by finishing third in the women's 200 meters at the Lone Star Grand Prix. Ofili clocked a season's best time of 22.15 seconds to secure a place on the podium in only her second 200-meter race of the year. Olympic champion Gabby Thomas won the race in a world-leading 21.70 seconds, while fellow American Kyla White finished second in 22.07 seconds. Nigeria's performance represents a significant improvement from her season opener and underlines her readiness for the challenges ahead. With the World Championship and Diamond League events approaching, Ofili appears to be building form at the right time. The Super Falcons will take a more intense approach to today's second international friendly against Senegal, following a closely contested first meeting in Ikenne Remo on Friday. Head coach Justin Madugu said that this side will be more purposeful in attack when they host the Lionesses of Taranga at the Remo Star Sports Complex, with both nations using the double-header to prepare for next month's Women African Cup of Nations in Morocco. Goals from Asisat Oshola converting from the spot and midfielder Tony Payne gave Nigeria a 2-1 victory on Friday, before Senegal pulled one back with 4 minutes of regulation time remaining. Real Madrid have confirmed that Florentino Perez will continue as president of the club after emerging victorious in the latest presidential election. The announcement was made through an official statement published on the club's website, with the electoral board rectifying Perez's re-election and extending his leadership of the European giants. The newly elected board also includes Secretary Jose Luis Delval Perez and several board members who will serve alongside Perez during the new administration. Well, that's it on News Cycle. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now, kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @GlobalTVNG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching.